So, well, it's great to meet you. You are the multimedia maven, and I love that. So I'm looking forward to getting into your prowess and history and all of the good stuff that you're doing for clients.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you too. You do all kinds of great things. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a busybody. I've been spending my life trying to chase my shadow, and I'm gonna catch it one day.
Well, I keep saying I'm going to someday I'll figure out what I want to do when I grow up, but have not figured it out yet.
When I was in college, I took a poetry class, and there was a woman in the class that must have been in her 80s. And we all went around at one magnanimous point, and everybody said what they wanted to do with their lives. And I will never forget her saying, I just don't want to ever grow up. And it was the most profound thing. And at that point in my 20s, I don't think I really squeezed the wisdom out of that lemon, but it's so true because it really
Yeah,
is. In the words of the poet Charles Bukowski, we're born geniuses and buried idiots. So if we can
there we
hold on,
go.
if we can hold on to that vigor as long as we can while we dance down here, who's going to fault us for that?
That is gold. You can turn that into a short right now
There
and
you
put it
go,
up.
right now.
Seriously. Are you
Yeah.
recording? Because if you were, I'm serious.
That's
That was
it. Yeah, it's going right now. We'll keep it in here. So,
Keep it
well,
in. But I'm telling you, turn that into a short, throw that on YouTube. I'll put it on my channel. That was
okay,
brilliant.
I will. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
For
for sure.
real.
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
because so my grandma, when she was in her 60s, she would not have a friend over 40 because she didn't want to be old. And so she just insisted, and she was crazy. She did all kinds of crazy things. But, I think that's how you stay young.
I think that's the key to all of it. There's a lot of things that we can do to kind of retain that youth, but I think there's a lot of it that goes into the mind. It's like when they talk about when someone's in a coma, like they're lucid and they know what's going on and everything's going. Even when you see people in senior living centers, their brains are going and they're there. It's just the synapses are just a little wound down. Things
Yeah.
aren't firing on the highway as much as they did, but it's still that idea that yeah, I mean, if you believe it, it's that manifest destiny too. If you want something so bad,
Yeah.
do it.
Exactly. Yeah, I had a grandpa, he was painting his second story on his house. And his family came over and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you got to get down that off that ladder and what if you fall?" And I'm like, "But what if he falls? Let him do it. Like at
Yeah.
least he'll go out happy because
Uh-huh.
he's 94 and he can paint a two-story house. That's pretty incredible." I
Yeah.
think yeah, but we tend to stop older people, you
I
know?
know. I know.
We do. We're like, it's time to sit down now and be quiet. In fact, I've got people on my YouTube channel telling me I'm too old and I shouldn't be out here and I don't belong having my face out. So, yeah,
Ridiculous.
it's a thing. It
Yeah,
is
it
a thing.
certainly is. And yeah, it's interesting. Like I think about Steve Irwin. He died doing what he wanted to do. I mean, as tragic as it was, I
Yeah,
think at the end of the day, he realized there was an inherent danger going up to large alligators and fish that can electrocute you and
right?
kill you in a minute. But you got to do it,
If it's
it
what you like to do. And
yeah,
yeah, I've my son was he was stung by a stingray and he's
yeah,
like, I survived. That's my
yeah. That's it. That's it.
but
So, yeah, I mean, it's just like cancer survivors and anything. Like things are going to happen no matter what we do. But sitting around and wondering and worrying about it isn't going to do any good at all. Not at
no.
all.
Well, and I've got a cancer story. And now I don't believe that thinking positively can cure everybody because
Sure.
if it could, no kids would be sick, right? I mean,
Right.
that's a thing. So I have to say this first.
Yeah.
But I had my podcast used to be for moms with chronic illness. And so we did a section of it on cancer because nobody wants to talk about it, but it affects people. And I had two moms with stage 4 cancer. I had one mom that came on telling how to tell your kids you're going to die because she had stage 4 cancer. She knew she was going to die. She had, that was done. Then I had the second woman had stage 4 cancer, and she's like, "Oh no, no, I'm starting a foundation. I will be here. My son is 5. I'm going to make it." And it's 6 years later, and she's still running that
Yeah.
foundation. And
That's
the
it.
first woman, unfortunately, passed within a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think it's all mindset because I don't think that's fair for
Right.
people, but I think it does have a lot to do with it. And I think it gives us a much better chance, right,
Yeah.
on living a better life. If we imagine that we do have a better life and we're going to have a better life, then
Yeah. Well, it's the nature of miracles. It wouldn't be a miracle if it happened all the time. You know,
exactly,
it's going to be
exactly.
like winning a lottery or something like that. So, Well, let's get into your life. And before we do, I want to know,
Okay.
4 years ago, we were figuring this pandemic out. How are we going to get through it? It really rearranged a lot of things for us. How did you survive that time period? And how did it change the way that you do things?
Oh, let me tell you what. I was so fortunate. So talk about whatever. I was not supposed to make it in 2018. They told me I had a year to live. And so we found this little island, moved my family onto this island in Florida because I thought if I'm gone, at least, they're going to have this house and they're going to be by the beach and whatever. Well, I'm still here. My doctors here are like, I don't know why they said that. You're fine. So that's a whole miracle in itself. But that's how we got here to this little island in Florida. And thank goodness we did because less than a year later, COVID hits and we had been in what I thought was my dream home. You had these beautiful arches when you walked in, and we had a Olympic-sized swimming pool for our neighborhood, but everything was shut down. It was in Nashville. And the pool, no one could swim in it for a year and a half, all this stuff. We moved here, we had a pool, we had the beach. Our neighborhood has its own beach. And so let me tell you, we survived through that time period very well, considering what everyone else went through. Because it was Florida. So, after 6 weeks, our governor's like, it's done. And then my son had really bad anxiety. And so a year into it, we just had to say it doesn't exist anymore because he couldn't take it. And so because we live here, it didn't exist for us. So if people wanted us to wear a mask, we would do that because we want to be respectful, whatever. But other than that, we just lived our lives. And it really helped, I think, just
Yeah,
where we were.
yeah, absolutely. No, and it probably made it a lot better being in Florida because everything was different everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this: as a multimedia maven, if I put you in front of a bunch of grade school children, third graders, career day, one of the kids is curious, and they say, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Right now, I say I'm a YouTuber and I have a podcast, and then
Okay,
we just go from there.
okay,
I've also written a couple books, whatever. That's boring to them usually. But the YouTube thing, and also that kids think that's weird. It's weird. How do I have a because you picture guys, that are in their late teens, early 20s, that's mostly YouTubers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Fun fact, do you know why that is? I was talking to a friend of mine that's a big YouTuber, and I said, "What is the deal? Why are there so many more men than women?" And it turns out you guys, because of the way you think, right? You have a plan, you carry out the plan, you get it done. But women, we have a plan, we think about that plan, we carry it out, we fine tune it, we think about it some more, and then it may or may not be done. And so with YouTube, you got to get on it, right? You
yeah.
got to get it out. And so I think that really, there's a benefit to thinking like a man. And I'm trying to do that and it's hard.
Well, I think it's like podcasting too. I think people think they have to have all this equipment, the studio, all this fancy stuff, and it's like just start. If you have an idea, because same thing with YouTube. If it's good, that whole democracy of the opinions in the world are going to weigh in your favor no matter what.
Yeah.
It just
Well,
is.
I'll tell you the thing about YouTube is everyone thought my idea was so stupid. I didn't think it was going to take off and it got a
Mm,
500,000 views in 3 months.
yeah,
So, I think what I would say, if anybody wants to start, just do it. You're exactly right. Just do it. And if it doesn't land, then tweak it a little bit,
yeah,
pivot, you
that's it.
know. But if you've got a thing that you're so excited about, why not?
Yeah. The first season of Seinfeld was really bad. The acting wasn't good. The storylines weren't really that good, but it got better. You have to
Yeah,
start, you know,
exactly.
and then it turns into something. So let's, I got to know, what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Psychiatrist.
Okay. Did you go after it?
So I was actually a psych major with a philosophy minor, which means I really overthink everything. I did not graduate, however, because I had kids and I made that decision. But
Okay.
that was my plan. And then at some point, because there was some show about a guy who drove a truck with a monkey, and so when I was a kid, of course, that sounded wonderful. I wanted to drive
BJ
a Mac.
McKay and
Yes,
his best friend Bear.
I wanted to drive a Mack truck and have a
Yeah.
monkey with me. That was my thing, or a psychiatrist, either one. They totally go together. Yeah.
Look how we dated ourselves. There's going to be kids that are going to be like, what are you talking about? A monkey and
A
a
monkey?
eight?
Yeah. Yeah, and also what third grader wants to be a psychiatrist? I don't know. That tells you a lot about my childhood, I think.
Right. Well, let's go to your childhood. How did these creative seeds get into you? How did you get to a point where you dreamed enough to do things a lot of people would love to be doing with their lives?
So my dad was an entrepreneur back in the day when people did not do this. He had an office at home in the late 70s. He was a steel broker. So he took steel from here and sold it to basically mostly Japan and traveled over there and did all that sort of thing. And it was funny because I always thought I was lazy. People always told me I was lazy. I hate going to work, right? 8 to 5. Always hated it. Didn't do a lot of it, I'll be honest. I mean, this is my 26th year homeschooling. Although my husband's doing it this year, which is amazing. But I think, that was in the back of my mind because my dad got to do what he wanted. He got to go where he wanted. He never checked in with anyone. His schedule was his own and his office was right there at home. So it was wonderful. And it hit me about 3 years ago. Oh my goodness. I work at this creative stuff a lot and I was giving it all away for free. I wasn't charging for anything at that point. And I thought, I'm spending, 6 to 8 hours a day doing all this stuff for all these other people. This is this is what I need to do. And so I formed I think it was my third business because the first two didn't really count. And it's a media company. And it just, once I got it, like, oh my gosh, I'm like my dad. I'm going to do what my dad did. It's taken off.
So I'm curious. I think I know what the answer is, but who's been a hero? Who's been that inspiration for you in your creative fuel and with all of these pursuits you've gone after?
Oh, who's been my hero? I got to tell you, my husband is my hero, honestly. He
Yeah.
really is. My husband is, I had 4 children when we met. He proposed to me 6 weeks later. We got married 3 months later. He was on his way to Iraq. He's a soldier. And he is one of the only men that I've ever met that can balance being a gentleman and a gentleman with being a strong man. It's a
Yeah.
hard thing, especially in this day and time.
Hmm.
And he has a work ethic and a moral compass and he just has a gentleness to him. I was raised by people that taught me that kindness was weakness. And so you tend to gravitate to not very nice people. And but he had that balance of strength that was definitely and kindness that was not weak. And he supports me in everything, which is incredible. So he's actually my producer now and the COO of our company. But yeah, yeah. And I think
Excellent.
before I got started, Pat Flynn and is in the entrepreneurial space. I listened
Yeah.
to his podcast and he kept saying, you can do it, you can do it, anyone can do it. And
Yeah.
so he would be the person, yeah, outside of my sphere.
So if you could have a dream person on the planet right now that you could interview on your podcast or be around for a little bit, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and interview?
Oh my gosh, his name just absolutely escapes me at this moment. Why is that? I Who wrote Fahrenheit 450? No, not George Orwell.
Oh, Ray Bradbury.
Ray Bradbury. Do you know why? Because I did some extensive research into him. He is a fascinating person.
Yeah.
He was fascinating and he had thoughts. He thought things that people didn't think back then. I don't know. And so he is one person I'd really like to
Yeah.
interview.
I,
Yeah.
I my psychology brain just kicked in when you did that. There's that phenomenon called the tip of the tongue thing where you knew it, but yeah. So
Yeah. It
I
just
was
slipped.
I was thinking that. So in the life of a creative, there's this moment where the first time you see someone's eyes light up or they're really fascinated with what you did. What was that one first thing that you did that just the light bulb went off and it really gave you a rush of adrenaline?
So actually, I had somebody who listens to my show when it was still Hardy Mom. I was talking about being sick and I was telling my story. And she wrote to me and let me know that she was considering committing suicide and she didn't because if I could get through what I had gotten through, she could get through what she was going through.
Wow.
And I
That's
thought,
amazing.
okay, this is if nothing else ever reached anyone, that was worth it.
That's
Everything I'd
it.
ever done. Yeah.
I think sometimes though in this world of podcasting, you can get stuck in a vacuum where you're doing it because you love it, but you don't hear as much from the outside. So when you get that voice, especially a magnanimous voice, it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yeah, and I think, it's funny because when the YouTube thing took off, I really leaned hard into that. And I think that's the thing is that you get that feedback, that instant feedback, because people have a way to comment right there.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing that is my least favorite about podcasting is that we don't hear back, even when we beg the audience. But I've even, listened to the Libsyn podcast people. Um, my
Yeah.
dogs are barking, I
Oh,
apologize.
I love the ambient noise. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. And so they were saying that people weren't responding to them either. And I thought, okay, this is a clearly across the board thing. It's not just me. Um, but yeah, but it's really nice when you hear back from people.
That is interesting. I never thought about that. That is the one medium, ironically, where we're putting all these words out there and opinions, and we don't get any of it back. It's wild. It's really,
But the one thing that's perfect about podcasting that I will never quit because it is the last place where we can say anything we want and not be throttled.
exactly. And you know,
So we need that.
we totally do. And it's weird because when we were growing up, you're talking about BJ McKay and the early shows and all that. You had like 4 or 5 networks, and then we went to cable and it expanded, but it's still one of those things where the beauty of our generation is that we genuinely can delve into this in a way that we never thought we ever could when we were younger.
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah. So because I always had things I wanted to say and you couldn't, right? Because the networks controlled everything. And
Yeah,
with podcasting, the floodgates are open. We can say and do what we want. And if people don't want to hear it, they don't have to turn it on,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
But it's great to see that when they do, that they do want to hear it.
yeah. What was the first podcast you started listening to where you were like, wow, this is a great medium. I love this.
Smart passive income, Pat Flynn. That was the
Okay.
first one. Yeah. And I feel like he really let people know what this medium could do.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, but it still took me a couple of years to get started
Yeah.
because that whole imposter thing, that's a big thing,
Uh-huh.
imposter syndrome, you know?
Yeah. It's huge. So, what is it that gets you up every day to do this work that you do? You're helping people, you're obviously changing lives, but you have to hold back and evolve as a human being yourself. What's that collective gumption for you?
Let me tell you what, I love creating things. I love it. And it's right now it's on a roll. And I honestly, I'm in my studio until 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I wake up at 8, thrilled to get up and get started, which is not something that has happened most of my life. I'm just enjoying the process and meeting people like you, meeting people everywhere. I'm part of Podfest and we're the volunteer coordinators, my husband and I. We just get to meet people. And I think my favorite thing, honestly, is connecting people to each other.
Yeah.
It has been really fun.
I think it's the modern version of therapy. I think it's the modern therapy that we needed after living through being quarantined and all the craziness and even the clownery that's going on right now and our political divisive thing. I think we're all more alike than we aren't. I think there's a level of us that are all working towards things that are obviously in different avenues, but they're all really the same. I mean, we just want to have a good life for ourselves and the people that we're around and we love.
Yes, that is absolutely. In fact, I am working right now on a flag. It's the human flag. I am going to promote it everywhere
Nice.
because we can all get behind it. It
Yeah.
stands for humanity only, every person.
Yeah.
Because this whole thing between, it used to be, you shouldn't talk about religion and politics, whatever, in certain places. Now you can't talk about it anywhere. And not only is someone gonna think something about you, but they'll stop talking to you forever
I
because of it.
know.
It blows my mind. It
Yeah.
really does. I don't understand how we got where we are.
One of my best friends I had in the 90s when I was kind of starting out, I was doing desktop publishing for a home health agency. And one of the first days I started there, the guy was a complete different opposite from me on the political spectrum. And we went at it and talked about it over lunch, and we became best friends. We used to go to the bars on Friday afternoons and hang out and got really close. And we both never ever saw eye to eye politically, but it didn't matter. And so now all of these schisms that we're all dealing with and this extremism is just ridiculous. I mean, we turned a corner. Definitely turned a corner.
We turned a corner. Yeah. Well, and I think at the point, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on. I don't care what you believe or how
Yeah,
you feel about people. We had a person that has represented our country shot, and there were people that were publicly outcried that he was not finished off.
right. Yeah,
Okay, I think there's a problem there.
yeah,
Like I don't care. It doesn't matter to me this is a person. I
yeah.
don't know. I think I can't believe that we're at that place,
Uh-huh. And
you
yeah,
know?
it's devolved. It's definitely devolved. I remember Mike Judge from Beavis and Butthead used to always do those spoofs on where America would go, and I was like, my God, that's scary, but we're there. We made it.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
the level of vapidity and the level of petty, just all of the things that you hoped that the dystopian novel wouldn't come to life has come to life. It's very strange.
It is. Well, okay, so I was in a special reading thing back in 1984. My goodness, I'm dating myself. And my teacher was super into the book 1984. So in that year, we did a deep dive through that book through for a whole semester. And let me tell you what, I am telling everybody, you got to read the book. It is, I mean, and what's wild to me is he did not, there was no TV back then.
Right.
And people didn't carry cameras around to do all this stuff, but he envisioned all the
Uh-huh.
things and changing the news, which I kept thinking, how would that ever happen? But when it's digital, it's so easy, you know?
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
just incredible.
I just read a book by Tom Robbins, and he was kind of talking about that, about this new society that was going to turn into this. And he got to the point where he would write all of his manuscripts out. He got so tired of digital and all of that that he just that's what he does. So it's wild. Um, so let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you. You can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've gained so far. What advice would you impart?
Oh, that you can do it on your own. You do not need another person. Do not hang around with the bad people that don't treat you nice.
Yeah,
I think that's where a lot of my life went south. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So what are you the proudest of? Of everything you've done and accomplished and evolved into and overcome, what are you the proudest of?
Well, I mean, obviously, I have 7 children, so, my family is
Sure.
number one. But outside of that, this YouTube thing is very exciting. I've got a YouTube manager now, you
Nice.
know? I'm looking at 60, turning 60, and that's happened. Like, that is huge to me.
It's
Yeah.
never too late.
It is never too late.
I mean, it
No.
just isn't, you
It
know?
just no, it's not. And there's a couple of women out there that are like in their 80s and they're doing a thing.
It's never
So
too late to kick ass. That's all there is to it, you
that's
know?
right. That's right. And and some people will give you a hard time, and that's okay
Yeah,
because nobody likes everybody. And that,
right.
but I think there need to be more people over a certain age that are out in the public eye that
Yeah,
are saying, hey, it doesn't matter, because right now, oh my gosh, I was showing my husband that Sports Illustrated with Martha Stewart on it, where she looks like she's 18
I
because she's been so
know.
airbrushed and whatever. And I just don't think that's fair because then husbands look at their wives that are aging naturally and they're like, what is wrong with you? I want the newer model. And so they do. And I
Yeah,
think if we were just a little more honest about what aging is like and maybe have some respect for aging, um, it would be a lot better.
I think it would. I think you nailed something very key about our society. So, Jen, at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, all of your fans, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh my gosh, that is a question no one's ever asked. That's a brilliant question. Who do I think I am? You know, down in the bottom of my heart, I am a homeschooling mom who is trying to make the world a better place.
So we get off this call, time machine pulls up. You can go anywhere in human history and see one event with your own eyes. Where are you going?
Oh, well, I mean, I got to go classic and go meet Jesus. I mean,
Okay,
that's just
there
where
you
I got
go.
to go. Yeah.
There you go. Jen, if anyone wants to indulge more in your world of YouTube, podcasting, all of your creative endeavors, where do they go?
JenHardy.net.
There
That's
you
it.
go.
Everything's there.
One of my best friends of all time, his name's Kato. He's kind of a sneaky guy. He's brilliant, but we call him Kato because he's kind of like from Pink Panther. He introduced me to all of the, like, Google was the first time he showed me YouTube, but I remember when I was getting my URL, he said, just get your name. Don't do anything weird. Just get your name.com or .net or whatever. Best thing I ever did.
Yep.
So it's good.
It is. It is. .net, I kind of hate it, but yeah, I'm not paying the person $2,000 that they've been asking for, so it
That's
is what
it.
it is.
Double brilliant. Jen, this has
But
been wonderful.
thank
Yeah,
you. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much
absolutely.
for